Hi, I'm Mr. Otway, and I'm here to tell you about the origins of the Cold War. And my first video, the one that you're watching right now, is all about, well, Harry Truman, and the impact that he had on the outbreak of the Cold War. I've got the sheets here, the sheets that you may have used to help you whilst you listen to this explanation. And basically, before Truman, Roosevelt had got on quite well with Stalin, largely through necessity, because they'd had to fight the war together. But just before the Americans and the Allies managed to get victory, Roosevelt died, sadly. And the relationship that Stalin and Roosevelt had had, whilst not being particularly close, it had been a decent working relationship, and they seemed to some extent to get on. Truman, who had been Roosevelt's vice president, he definitely didn't like the Soviets. Not at all. And he was of the belief that in order to deal with people like Stalin, you had to stand up to them. And this was born partly of what had happened before the Second World War, because Britain and France hadn't stood up to Hitler, and Hitler had just kept taking and taking and taking and taking and taking and taking until the war broke out. So Truman decided, well, if that's how we dealt with Hitler and the Second World War happened, I'm not making that mistake. I'm going to be tough with Stalin. And so he was. And the other thing which is on that sheet is the Lend-Lease. Roosevelt approved Lend-Lease, which was, America was such a wealthy country that during the Second World War, one of the ways they could help the war to be won would be to lend a lot of money, weapons and the like to the countries that were on their side, which they did, and it was called Lend-Lease. But at the end of the war, Truman stopped giving Lend-Lease to the Soviets, which it was in his rights to do, because he didn't have to be giving things over there to the Russians, but the Russians had suffered massively from the war, and it was, perhaps the first, we're not giving you what you want sort of thing. So Truman, if you were a Soviet and you were looking across at Roosevelt over the table at the Yalta conference, he might have been like, what? And Truman would have been going, okay.